Most people believe wealth is earned through discipline. Spend less than you make, save consistently, avoid debt, invest patiently. You've heard those rules your entire life. But the reality is far stranger. If being good with money were enough, millions of careful, responsible people would already be financially free. They aren't. Many spend decades doing everything they were told to do, only to discover they're still trapped in the same cycle they thought they were escaping. How can someone save diligently for 30 years and still feel financially insecure? Because there's a hidden difference between protecting money and creating wealth. Most people never learn it. Schools rarely teach it. Employers don't benefit from explaining it. And once you recognize it, you'll never look at your paycheck, savings account, or monthly budget the same way again. You don't become wealthy simply by avoiding mistakes. You become wealthy by understanding the system you're playing inside. Imagine two people. Both earn exactly the same salary. Both live in similar homes. Both drive reliable cars. Both avoid expensive vacations and unnecessary purchases. At first glance, their financial lives appear identical. Yet 20 years later, one has accumulated genuine financial freedom, while the other is still depending entirely on the next paycheck. What happened? It wasn't luck. It wasn't intelligence. It wasn't even income. It was understanding the difference between being efficient with money and making money work independently of human effort. That distinction changes everything. Your brain naturally treats money as something to protect. Evolution shaped you that way. For thousands of years, resources were scarce. Losing food meant starvation. Losing shelter meant danger. Every instinct encouraged conservation rather than expansion. Those instincts kept your ancestors alive. Today, they can quietly keep you financially stuck. When you receive extra money, your first instinct is usually to protect it. Put it into savings, pay down expenses, build a larger emergency fund. Those are responsible decisions. But responsibility alone doesn't create wealth. It creates stability. Stability matters. Without stability, even small financial emergencies become disasters. But stability and wealth are not the same destination. Many people unknowingly stop after reaching stability because it feels safe. They mistake the absence of financial danger for the presence of financial freedom. Those are completely different realities. Financial stability means your lifestyle survives if nothing unexpected happens. Financial freedom means your lifestyle survives even if you stop working. One depends on your continued labor. The other depends on your accumulated assets. Most people spend their lives strengthening the first while barely touching the second. Think about your paycheck. Where does it actually come from? You probably answered, my employer. But that's only partially true. Your paycheck comes from your ability to exchange time for value. No time, no paycheck. Even highly paid professionals often remain locked inside this equation. Doctors, lawyers, consultants, engineers, executives, many earn extraordinary incomes. Yet if they stop working for an extended period, that income eventually stops too. High income is not financial independence. It's simply a larger dependency on continued performance. This idea often surprises people because society constantly celebrates income while quietly ignoring ownership. Ownership behaves differently. When you own productive assets, your income becomes less connected to the hours you personally work. That doesn't mean passive income is effortless. Building productive assets usually requires enormous effort at first. But once those assets exist, they can continue producing value long after the original work is finished. A book can continue selling. A business can continue operating. Investments can continue compounding. Intellectual property can continue generating royalties. Ownership creates leverage. Employment creates exchange. Both have value. Only one scales beyond your available hours. This is why two equally responsible people can experience completely different financial futures. One spends every available dollar improving today's financial comfort. The other gradually purchases assets that improve tomorrow's financial capacity. From the outside, both appear responsible. Underneath, they're building entirely different futures. There's another psychological trap that makes this even harder to recognize. Visible success is easy to measure. Invisible wealth is not. A larger house is visible. A luxury car is visible. Designer clothing is visible. An expensive vacation is visible. Shares quietly growing inside an investment account are almost invisible. Ownership in a private business is invisible. Cash reserves are invisible. Diversified investments rarely impress strangers because strangers can't see them. Our brains evolved inside social groups where visible status often improved survival. That instinct never disappeared. It simply found new symbols. Today, expensive consumption often receives more admiration than invisible ownership. This creates a dangerous illusion. Many people slowly convert future wealth into present appearances without realizing they're making that trade. The purchase feels rewarding. The financial consequence remains hidden for years. By the time it becomes obvious, reversing the pattern becomes much harder. This is one reason lifestyle inflation quietly becomes one of the greatest obstacles to wealth creation. Lifestyle inflation doesn't necessarily happen because someone becomes greedy. It happens because comfort quietly becomes the new normal. The apartment becomes a house. The house becomes a larger house. The reliable car becomes the luxury model. The occasional restaurant becomes everyday convenience. Each upgrade feels reasonable by itself. Rarely does someone wake up intending to double their monthly expenses. It happens gradually. Comfort expands to fill available income. And once comfort becomes expectation, reducing it feels like loss. Your brain doesn't compare today's lifestyle with last year's lifestyle. It compares today's lifestyle with yesterday's expectations. That's why earning more money often produces surprisingly little increase in long-term happiness. Expectations grow almost as quickly as income. Without noticing, you've started running faster just to remain emotionally in the same place. The financial treadmill becomes invisible precisely because it feels normal. Every raise solves yesterday's problems while creating tomorrow's obligations. The cycle repeats again and again until decades pass. The hardest part about financial progress is that the biggest rewards are delayed. Your brain dislikes delayed rewards. It evolved to prioritize immediate survival, not 30-year investment horizons. Food today was always more valuable than food promised next season. That instinct still shapes your decisions every time you choose immediate comfort over future ownership. Can you really blame yourself for wanting results you can actually see? This is where compounding becomes almost impossible to appreciate emotionally. Everyone has heard the phrase. Few people truly understand it. Compounding doesn't grow in a straight line. It grows quietly, then steadily, then surprisingly. Finally, it appears almost explosive. Most people quit during the quiet stage because nothing seems to be happening. Imagine planting a tree. For years, it barely changes. The trunk thickens slowly. The branches stretch only a little farther each season. If you judged its success every week, you might think nothing was happening at all. Then, a decade passes. Now it provides shade, fruit, protection. Its growth didn't suddenly begin. It simply reached the point where years of invisible progress became impossible to ignore. Money behaves much the same way. Early investments rarely look impressive. The first $1,000 earns little. The next $10,000 earns more. Eventually, the growth generated by existing wealth begins exceeding the amount you personally contribute. That is one of the most important financial turning points in life, because now your money has started working harder than you are. Most people never experience this moment, not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack discipline, but because they interrupt compounding every few years. A market decline scares them. An expensive purchase drains their investments. A new lifestyle absorbs every raise. An unexpected expense forces them to start over. The cycle repeats before compounding ever has the chance to reveal its real power. Imagine pushing a massive flywheel. The first push barely moves it. The second changes almost nothing. You continue pushing. Again, again, again. Each effort feels disconnected from the next. Then, something changes. Momentum appears. The wheel begins helping you. Eventually, stopping becomes harder than continuing. Financial wealth follows the same pattern. Consistency often matters more than intensity. A modest investment maintained for decades frequently outperforms large bursts of enthusiasm interrupted by long periods of inactivity. This is deeply counterintuitive because our culture celebrates dramatic transformations. Lose 30 pounds in 30 days. Become a millionaire overnight. 10 secrets to instant success. Your brain loves dramatic stories. Reality usually rewards boring consistency. The wealthiest financial habits are often painfully ordinary. Automatic investing, living below your means, learning continuously, avoiding unnecessary debt, increasing skills, owning productive assets. None of those ideas sound exciting. That's exactly why they work. They're difficult to market because they aren't emotionally thrilling. The financial industry understands this. Entire businesses exist because people constantly search for shortcuts. The next hot stock, the next cryptocurrency, the next guaranteed opportunity, the next secret strategy. Every generation believes it has discovered a faster path. Most eventually rediscover the same lesson. Wealth usually grows slower than excitement. If an opportunity promises extraordinary returns with almost no risk, why would anyone share it with millions of strangers? That's a question worth asking every time you encounter financial hype. Real investing often feels almost disappointingly simple. Buy valuable assets. Hold them. Allow time to work. Repeat. Simple doesn't mean easy. Simple means understandable. Easy means emotionally comfortable. Those are different things. Holding investments while markets fall isn't emotionally comfortable. Ignoring everyone else's apparent success isn't emotionally comfortable. Watching someone make quick profits while you patiently follow a long-term strategy isn't emotionally comfortable. But wealth isn't built by following emotions. It's built by managing them. This brings us to another invisible obstacle: comparison. Comparison quietly destroys financial judgment because it changes your definition of enough. The moment someone earns more than you, drives a nicer car, lives in a bigger home, travels more often, your financial progress suddenly feels smaller, even if nothing in your own life has actually changed. How strange is that? Yesterday, you were grateful. Today, you're discouraged. The only difference is that you saw someone else's highlight reel. Modern technology amplifies this instinct every single day. Social media rarely displays invisible wealth. It displays visible consumption. Luxury vacations, designer clothes, exotic restaurants, perfect homes. expensive watches. Rarely do people proudly post screenshots of diversified retirement contributions or emergency funds. Consumption photographs beautifully. Patience doesn't. This creates a distorted picture of financial reality. You begin believing everyone else is advancing faster than you. Many aren't. They're simply displaying spending rather than ownership. Some finance those appearances with debt. Others sacrifice long-term investments to maintain short-term status. From the outside, both can look identical. Appearances rarely reveal balance sheets. One of the most liberating financial realizations is understanding that wealth whispers, while debt often shouts. The richest person in a room isn't always the one wearing the most expensive suit. Sometimes it's the person nobody notices.
They don't need attention. Their assets are already speaking for them. This shift changes how you evaluate success. Instead of asking, "What can I afford this month?" you begin asking, "What can this purchase earn me over the next 20 years?" That's an entirely different mindset. The first question measures consumption. The second measures opportunity. Every dollar has multiple possible futures. Spend it, save it, invest it. Use it to learn. Use it to create. Use it to buy time. Each decision sends that dollar onto a completely different path. Money is never just money. It's stored opportunity. Once you begin seeing opportunity instead of currency, financial decisions become much clearer. Not always easier, but certainly clearer.
There's one belief that quietly shapes almost every financial decision you make. The belief that security comes from certainty. It sounds reasonable. After all, certainty feels safe. A guaranteed paycheck, a predictable routine, a familiar career, a savings account that never fluctuates. Your brain naturally prefers these because uncertainty has always carried risk. But here's the strange part. The greatest opportunities in history have almost always emerged from uncertainty. Every successful business once looked risky. Every breakthrough technology once looked unnecessary. Every market recovery began while people were convinced things would only get worse. Does that mean you should chase risk? No. It means you should learn the difference between uncertainty and danger. Most people treat them as the same thing. They're not.
Danger threatens your survival. Uncertainty simply means you don't know the outcome. Investing in a diversified portfolio carries uncertainty. Driving without wearing a seatbelt creates danger. Starting a carefully planned business involves uncertainty. Borrowing money you cannot repay creates danger. Learning to separate these two ideas changes how you evaluate opportunities, because avoiding every uncertainty often means avoiding every opportunity as well. Think about skills for a moment. Most people see education as something that ends with graduation, but the modern economy doesn't work that way anymore. Knowledge ages, technology changes, industries evolve. The skill that made someone valuable 10 years ago may no longer command the same income today. Your greatest financial asset isn't your bank account. It's your ability to create value. That ability lives inside your knowledge, your experience, your judgment, and your willingness to keep learning. Unlike many physical assets, those can continue growing for decades. Imagine two investors. One spends every spare dollar buying stocks. The other invests both in stocks and in developing valuable skills that increase future income. Which investor has the greater long-term advantage? The second one, because higher earning potential creates more capital to invest. More capital produces larger investments. Larger investments create greater future income. The cycle begins reinforcing itself. Money compounds. Skills compound. Relationships compound. Reputation compounds. Even curiosity compounds.
The people who consistently ask better questions usually make better decisions over time. That's because every financial decision is made with incomplete information. No one knows exactly what markets will do next year. No one knows which industries will dominate 30 years from now. No one knows every challenge they'll face. The goal isn't perfect prediction. The goal is becoming adaptable. Adaptability is one of the most valuable financial skills you can develop. It protects you when certainty disappears. And certainty always disappears eventually. History makes this clear. Entire industries rise. Others disappear. Technologies replace older technologies. Consumer habits evolve. Economic cycles come and go. People who remain flexible often survive changes that permanently damage those who refuse to adapt. This applies to personal finances too. Sometimes the smartest financial move isn't investing more. Sometimes it's relocating, changing careers, building a business, learning a new profession, negotiating higher compensation, reducing unnecessary obligations.
Financial advice often focuses almost entirely on cutting expenses. But there comes a point where increasing your ability to create value becomes far more powerful than endlessly reducing costs. You can only cut so much. You can expand almost indefinitely. This is where many people accidentally limit themselves. They spend years searching for cheaper coffee, lower utility bills, smaller monthly subscriptions, while ignoring opportunities that could permanently increase their income. Both matter, but they don't matter equally. Saving $10 is helpful. Learning a skill that increases your annual income by $10,000 changes your entire financial trajectory. The richest investments aren't always financial. Sometimes they're educational. Sometimes they're professional. Sometimes they're personal. Health, for example. Poor health quietly becomes one of the most expensive financial liabilities imaginable. Medical costs increase. Productivity declines. Career opportunities disappear. Time becomes limited. Energy fades. Your ability to generate future income weakens. Good health isn't only a medical asset. It's an economic one. The same is true for your relationships. Opportunities rarely arrive in complete isolation. People recommend people they trust. Businesses hire people with proven reputations. Partnerships grow from reliability. Trust compounds just like money does. One introduction leads to another. One successful project creates another opportunity. One strong relationship opens doors that technical knowledge alone never could. This is why wealth is rarely built through one single breakthrough. It's usually built through countless small advantages, reinforcing one another over many years. A little more knowledge, a little more discipline, a little more patience, a little more ownership. Each seems insignificant by itself. Together, they become extraordinary. The problem is that your brain doesn't naturally notice gradual improvement. It notices dramatic events. Winning the lottery attracts attention. Building wealth slowly rarely makes headlines. Yet one path creates millions of lasting success stories. The other creates millions of disappointed dreamers. Real financial progress often feels almost invisible while it's happening. Month after month, very little appears different. Then one day, you look back. Your investments have multiplied. Your income has grown. Your confidence has strengthened. Your options have expanded. People call it overnight success. You know it was 20 years of ordinary decisions, repeated consistently. That's how wealth usually looks from the inside. Not dramatic, not glamorous, just remarkably consistent. There's one final misunderstanding that keeps countless people from ever becoming wealthy. They believe money is the goal. It isn't.
Money is a tool. The real goal is freedom. Freedom to decide how your mornings begin. Freedom to choose work because it matters to you, not because next month's bills demand it. Freedom to spend time with the people you love without constantly calculating what those hours are costing you. Freedom isn't purchased overnight. It's accumulated, one decision at a time. Every responsible financial choice you make is like placing another brick into a foundation. At first, the structure barely rises above the ground. It doesn't look impressive. Nobody stops to admire a foundation. But foundations determine whether a building survives storms. The same is true of wealth. The habits that create it rarely receive applause.
No one congratulates you for increasing your investment contributions. No one notices when you decide not to upgrade your car. No one celebrates the weekend you spend learning a valuable skill instead of chasing temporary entertainment. These victories are invisible. But invisible victories often create visible futures. This is why the wealthiest people often think differently about time than they do about money. Money can be lost and earned again. Time never returns. Every purchase is more than an exchange of dollars. It's an exchange of hours. If you earn $25 an hour and buy something for $250, you're not only spending money, you're spending 10 hours of your life. When you begin measuring purchases in life instead of currency, your priorities quietly change. Some purchases suddenly become worthwhile. Others lose their appeal almost instantly. The same principle applies to investments. A productive asset doesn't only earn money, it gives future time back to you. If an investment eventually pays for your monthly housing, it has purchased part of your freedom. If another investment eventually covers your food, it has purchased another piece. If your assets one day generate enough income to support your lifestyle, they haven't simply made you richer. They've given you choices. And choice is the true currency of financial independence. This is why the question isn't, how much money do you want? The better question is, how much freedom do you want your money to create? Those answers are rarely identical. Many people earn impressive incomes while living with very little freedom. Their lifestyle demands every paycheck. Their obligations consume every raise. Their success becomes another form of dependency. Others quietly build modest lives with growing ownership. Year after year, their assets begin replacing the income their labor once provided. They don't appear dramatically different until one day they can choose. Choose where to live. Choose what work to accept. Choose when to retire. Choose how to spend an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. Those choices weren't purchased in a single moment. They were built through thousands of ordinary decisions that no one else noticed. There's another irony hidden inside all of this. The people who become wealthy rarely obsess over looking wealthy. They obsess over building systems that automatically save, systems that automatically invest, systems that increase knowledge, systems that reduce emotional decision-making. Because they understand something most people don't. Motivation fades. Systems remain. You won't always feel disciplined. You won't always feel patient. You won't always feel optimistic when markets fall or unexpected expenses appear. But a well-designed system continues working even when emotions become unreliable. That's why successful investors automate contributions, why businesses create repeatable processes, why financially healthy people establish routines instead of relying on willpower. They remove as many decisions as possible. Every unnecessary decision creates another opportunity for emotion to interfere. The fewer emotional financial decisions you make, the more consistent your long-term results often become. Consistency quietly defeats intensity, again and again. This doesn't mean you'll never make mistakes. You will.
Everyone does. Markets decline, businesses fail, jobs disappear, unexpected emergencies happen. The goal was never perfection. The goal is resilience.
Resilience means one mistake doesn't erase years of progress. One recession doesn't destroy your future. One unexpected expense doesn't force you to start from zero. That's what stability was always meant to provide, not as the destination, as the foundation for building wealth. And once you understand that difference, nearly every financial decision begins to look different. Saving isn't the finish line, it's fuel. Budgeting isn't about restriction, it's about directing resources intentionally. Investing isn't gambling, it's purchasing productive ownership over time. Income isn't success, ownership is. Being careful isn't enough, being intentional is. The surprising truth is that becoming wealthy rarely requires becoming a completely different person. It usually requires becoming a slightly more patient version of yourself. A version that understands today's decisions echo for decades. A version that values ownership over appearance, opportunity over consumption, freedom over status, long-term thinking over short-term emotion. None of these choices feel extraordinary on any single day. That's precisely why most people overlook them.
The extraordinary result comes from ordinary decisions repeated for an extraordinarily long time. So the next time you hear someone say that being good with money is all it takes, remember what they usually leave out. Being good with money protects what you already have. Learning how to make money work without depending entirely on your time is what builds lasting wealth. One creates security, the other creates freedom. And that is the difference that changes everything. Because most people believe wealth is earned through discipline. The reality is that discipline is only where wealth begins. True wealth is earned when that discipline is transformed into ownership, leverage, and freedom, until your money is no longer simply protecting your life, but quietly giving it back to you.